Good morning. My latest buy at Harbor Freight. 10-inch bench drill press, 12 speed, 300 to 2900. I really wanted the big floor model. I think it's a 16-inch, but I really don't have the room for it. And I saw the little one for $50 and almost bought it. But when in the pictures it looks okay, but when you see it in person, it's really just a toy. This is one step up. It's not as big as the one I have, which is a Black & Decker, but I want a drill press that I can put on the bench, put in a countersink bit, and use it only for countersinks. Thought this was a good compromise. I'm sure I'll find other uses for it. So let's get to the good stuff. Oh, it comes in 1,000 pieces. So there's one tray. The other tray has a single big piece, which is the motor. Stand. And the screw for the adjustment. And that's pretty much it. Okay, so here's all the pieces. I said 1,000 pieces when I first saw it, but it really isn't that bad. There's the main motor unit, the base, the table that moves up and down, the base pole, and the collar ring, 3 pieces for the lever, and a couple of, there's the jack up and down. That is plastic. Oh, that is cheap. Much rather I had that cast iron or some type of metal. We've got a box with a chuck in it. And directions. Now you do know that you can go online and get the manuals. Even after a tool is discontinued, you can still go online and find the manuals. Now I caution you that there is a hidden compartment in that top tray that's got some of this stuff in it. I think this was in it, and I almost missed it. Just check the manual. There's 5 pages of what not to do with it before it tells you how to set it up. 2 pages of assembly, 2 pages of setup, and 5 more pages of what not to do. One thing I do like is they give this exploded view diagram. If you're going to buy, if you need to work on it, this is good to know how everything goes. But they don't always tell you the size of the bolts. Now this one does. Bolt M8 by 25, set screw M8 by 10, angle bolt M12 by 30. So if you need to go buy a replacement part for the nuts and bolts, you can usually find those. I encourage you to read the manual. All 10 pages of what not to do, and then the 4 pages of what to do. You got the base, and there's a light coating of oil on everything. I think they do that because they ship it from overseas to keep it from rusting on the way. That is my theory. Doesn't mean it's true. There's so much grease, there's so much oil on this that won't slide off. It has to be taken off. So there's fine machine oil on that. And actually in this case, I'm going to leave it. This is a pretty universal fit. So I'll just set it on there and get the bolts. Okay, they call these lock washers spring washers. I've seen that in other parts of their tools. So here's the bolts for the base. And if I, for whatever reason, I would need to go buy another one of these, I can look in the manual and see what they are. I'm going to use the bolt with a spring washer on top of a washer. Okay, the bolts will barely go in because there is debris in the threads. Well, there's a couple ways to deal with that. One is I can get a wrench and drive those through, or I can get a tap and die, or I can get a tap and clean them out. That's just, I don't know if you can get that on camera, but there is so much debris in there, it's not funny. So the manual says that this bolt is an M8 by 25. I don't have a tap for that. I actually don't have any more bolts either, so I'm going to have to be careful. What I'm going to do is turn it over and see if I can just thread them in a little. Wow, it's amazingly tight. This one, I don't know. I've got a needle file. I just need to clean that out enough that I can get the bolt in to clean it out that way. So I'm going to try to do this to clean that out. I don't think that's steel. I think it's just dirt. If I can just get it to thread, then I can use... There, I think I... Going in so tight, it feels like it's cross-threading, so I'm going to have to check that. Cast iron is pretty soft. You can screw it up easy. Okay, now there we go. In case you're wondering, that worked out to be 14 millimeters, which a 9/16 will also do. Let's see what we got. So let's jack it in here. These cost about $1.99 on sale. I realize I probably won't be able to do this with the pole on, but just to drive them in and out. So that should clean out the threads. I'm glad I did that one ahead of time. You could tell by the way it went in and out that there was something serious down in there. We're going to put this back on here with all of its oil still on and try to maintain that. So we want a spring washer, a regular washer, shiny side up of course. So am I going to be able to do this? Yeah, actually I don't want to put that all the way in because it'll make it harder to get the other ones in. Bolt, spring washer, washer. Bolt, spring washer, washer. Shiny side up, of course. Why shiny side up? Because it looks better. Got some torque. That's why you need that clutch. Let's see where that kicks on at. Okay, well, 17. I'm going to leave that grease on there because it will not only help protect this column against rust, it will actually make it move up and down easier also. All that oil, see how discolored and that texture, that's that oil on that's dried. So I have to clean that off once I get it together. Pretending like you have 3 hands. Wow, actually went on amazingly good. One thing I don't like about this is actually convenient. It lets you move it up and down fairly easily, and it is one of the reasons I bought this. But the bottom kind of runs wild. Okay, that cheap hand crank. Now, that has a bunch of rubber pieces on it, rubber band. Okay, I took the rubber band off. That's not going on, so I'm assuming that this is in. I'm not that impressed with this handle, but let's see how it actually works. I'm actually afraid I'm going to tighten it down and over tighten it. Just feels like a little toy. Okay, they give you 2 little Allen keys. One of those has to fit this. So what this is a lock collar for this. Okay, so now I'll turn that around and really tighten it. Harbor Freight sells some long reach Allen wrenches. They work out really well. Okay, works much better if you put the lock collar on before you put the motor top on. Still feels like a toy. You want to be careful using this to lift because you could screw up those gears. Chuck installation instructions. Okay, so we got to do that set screw. That uses the same Allen wrench. Not a whole lot to hold that down. Okay, so it has a second set screw to hold the motor assembly on. Okay, now tighten it down. I actually want to loosen these, and I don't know that that's square, so I want to check it. Try to set that right there. Everything's got a fine coat of oil on it. So my hands are just greasy as crap right now. Let's turn it around. Now that I've got the head assembly mounted, I'll use it to turn it around. This isn't a very heavy tool. So they give you 3 of these levers. I'm hoping they go on better than the mounting bolts below going on. And turn those till they won't go no more and get them really tight. You don't want those coming loose while you're using it. It doesn't move very smooth, especially if it's got oil on it. To me, that sounds like, it might be a little rough. Yeah, they give you a hint of what all this oil is. It says, make sure this is clean and dry, no oil or protective coating. So they consider that fine coat of oil protective coating. I think most of the oil and debris is up top. So go get your rubber mallet. Mine's in such great cleanliness. So go get your arbor. So they want you to clean out down in there. So I got that through there. I think I'm just going to pull that through and call it clean. Looks clean. So we want to seat that on there. You want to hit that with a rubber mallet. And I fully retracted those teeth before I hit that. There's a lot of people that sell spindle sanders that mount on the bottom of this. This mounting of this chuck is made to apply force straight down. If you start applying force to the sides, it's very possible that this arbor will just drop right off. Here is the chuck key, absolutely dripping with oil. So we'll clean that up. There's some machining imperfections across the back here. But that needs oiled. That is not very finely machined. You can feel a very, very rough texture on that. Okay, I've got the table down all the way. I just want to make sure that this is unlocked before you start on this, because that's a good way to tear up your threads here. That still doesn't feel like it fits very good. Just a lot of slop in that. Okay, I want to true up the table. So I'm going to get a spindle here. Put it up in the chuck. Tighten that down. And as you can see, the table's messed up. But I think that's going to be a reoccurring thing with this table. It's not mounted very good, I think. So that's pretty much centered, but that's going to change every time you go up and down. That center's going to change because there's so much slop in that. I wanted to use this to measure if it was square to the table, but I'm going to have to get a smaller one. Okay, this one should work. I'm just going to raise that as much as that'll let me. Tighten down the table. Okay, so if I look at that, it's off. To adjust that, I've got to get down in under this and loosen that. Well, I went and got a socket 3/4, and it works. Just randomly picked one. Yes, I should be using metric. It'll fit a little better. So I'm going to turn that sideways so I can see what I'm doing here. So to get ready for this, I'll go ahead and put the socket on this and adjust the table. Okay, that looks pretty good the whole length. Get in there and tighten this up now. Got it a little bit tight. Let's try. I'm going to have to find a smaller steel square to do this with, but the plastic one will do for now. I'll consider it a rough setting. So that's pretty snug. Convinced that's at right angles. This table, don't like all that slop. So open this up. And if you lose your key, do not go to Harbor Freight and buy their multi-function key. It has 4 different sizes on it. Absolutely horrible tool. Seems like a good idea until you use it and it cuts your hand. I'm going to raise this about halfway. That's what I don't like about this. It just has so much slop built into it. The whole thing is covered in machine oil. I have to clean that up. So that has a bunch of grease right on top of it, which is kind of bad because there's nothing moving there. I can only assume they put it under this bolt. And it has machined aluminum pulleys. And it has a chart, which is very convenient, by the way, of spindle speed belt settings and adjusting the belt tension, how to do that. And there has to be a certain amount of deflection. Okay, they give you a knob for this. So just go ahead and put it on. Say you want to adjust the belts. Loosen these 2, one on each side. Push the motor in. That takes the tension off of the motor, makes it easier for you to change the belts. Slower is probably better. Slower is going to be the top on this end, bottom on this end. We got it. I got that on the bottom. Now I got to get this on the bottom. There we go. Okay. Nowhere in the manual does it tell you what this is. I'm saying it's to pull the motor back and hold it. That middle one comes out and it just pivots. So to increase the tension on this belt, you've got to pull the motor back and increase the tension on this belt. Okay, so tighten it up. Okay. So let's get a close-up of the pulleys. It's actually polished aluminum. And the middle one actually is in a pivot hole here, so you adjust the tension of this, which adjusts the tension of this. It doesn't turn very easy. But the end result is it works. Okay, it has a depth adjustment. That is weird to say the least. Okay, so let's look at the depth adjustment. I'm going to put a brad point bit in this. Okay, tighten this up. Tighten all three. It's a little controversial whether you need to do all three or not. John Heiss says you got to do all three. Like his work. So I follow that. Okay, so say I want to drill into this. Got a brad point bit in. I want to drill a hole in this, but I don't want to go all the way. Loosen this so that it moves. Take your work down until the cutting surface is right on the top of the wood. Then set this color, and let's set it to 5 millimeters. Tighten it. Let's see what we got. Okay, that's supposed to be a 5 millimeter hole. I'll go along with that. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to set up. You just have to get used to using it, and I'm sure it'll get easier to judge it, but it does have that. Luckily it has some slop in here so that if you tighten this, it won't break. Okay, so I've showed you how to use it. Basic functionality. Told you the drawbacks. The depth adjustment, changing the pulleys to get a speed, how to assemble it. So basic functionality. It's a little smaller than my Black & Decker that I've had for 20 years. And the Black & Decker still works great. This wasn't to replace the Black & Decker. This was to set up and use specifically for countersinks. So it's going to set on the bench beside a table saw, my assembly table. It'll have a countersink bit in here at all times. When I need that, I'll use it. You can catch these on sale all the time for about $100. There is another one they have for about $50, $55. That's smaller than this. This one looked like a better deal to me. It looked more usable. The other was just so small. But for my use, it's going to work out perfect. For any use, it's going to work out. I think this is a good drill press, and I think it'll last a long time. I did not take out the coverage because in the first year, it's not going to break anyway. So if you like the videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.